Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Glad to have you join me today. The accused killer of Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband sent a text message to his family after the killing spree saying, "Dad went too far last night." We have an update on this developing story. Is it okay to get violent during protests if you believe it will lead to political change? Evidently, this is a growing belief among young people, the younger generation. They think violence is okay. Over 200 House and Senate Democrats signed a letter condemning what they called an unprecedented incident in which, and speaking of violence, Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed from a Homeland Security press conference last week. I'll tell you what the Dems are so upset about in today's show. And South Carolina GOP Chairman Drew McKissick joins us to discuss the future of Representative R.J. May, who was indicted on hundreds of child porn charges last week. Mr. McKissick has called for May to resign his House seat.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Hours after gunning down Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband and wounding another state lawmaker and his wife in a series of coordinated attacks, accused assassin Vance Bolter sent a haunting message to his family, simply saying, "Dad went too far last night." The stunning detail comes from a newly unsealed federal criminal complaint outlining Bolter's alleged role in the most brazen political assassination plot in recent times, maybe in modern history, Minnesota history, that is. And one of the deadliest domestic attacks, too, on sitting U.S. lawmakers in over a decade. Bolter is 57. He's now facing both federal and state charges that could lead to the death penalty. The charges include murder, attempted murder, and multiple firearms violations tied to a planned spree that spanned 3 counties, targeted several elected officials, including state senators and the Speaker of the House. According to federal prosecutors, the early Saturday morning event began with a knock at the home of State Senator John Hortman. Bolter, dressed in dark clothing and a mask, claimed to be a police officer as he forced his way inside. When Hortman and his wife, Yvette, realized something was off, Bolter allegedly brandished a gun and opened fire, injuring both. They're lucky to be alive. He didn't linger. Investigators say that Bolter then moved on to 2 additional addresses, both listed as homes of Minnesota lawmakers. One was empty. The other was under active police surveillance. At each stop, Bolter's behavior escalated, culminating in a final fatal assault at the home of Representative Melissa Hortman. According to court documents, Mr. Bolter stormed into the Hortman's home as police were converging on the scene. By the time officers made entry, the Speaker and her husband, Mark Hortman, were both dead. At around 6:15 a.m., shortly after the murders, Bolter reportedly sent a cryptic message to a family group chat that included his wife and at least one adult child. He said, "Dad went too far last night. I don't want to say more because I don't want to implicate anybody." It sounds like an admission to me, does it not to you? Dad went too far? Yeah. 2 people are dead. 2 are wounded. and I was seen at their homes. He followed up with another message to his wife saying this: words are not going to explain how sorry I am for this situation. There are going to be some people coming to the house armed and trigger happy, and I don't want you guys around. By that point, Bolter was already being hunted. FBI agents located his wife, Jenny Bolter, during a traffic stop later that morning. Inside her vehicle were passports for multiple family members, their children, and $10,000 in cash. I would say she was on her way out of the country, wouldn't you? I would say she was ready to flee. Now, you're not going to get very far with $10,000, so she might have wanted to plan a little more. But, hey, early Saturday morning, maybe that's all the cash you can come up with. Authorities believe that she was, in fact, ready to escape. Maybe, just maybe, she's going to help him escape. What police and federal agents found in Bolter's abandoned car, Mr. Bolter's abandoned car, only made things worse. Inside were handwritten notebooks containing detailed notes on several state politicians. He had names, addresses, family members, work routines, and even assessments of security vulnerabilities at their homes. He obviously had been stalking these people. He obviously had plans to hurt a lot of elected politicians. Under Hortman's name, one note allegedly read, "Married, Mark, 2 children, 11th term." In another entry, Bolter described her house as big house off golf course, 2 ways in, watch from one spot. So he'd been staking these people out. He'd be planning these things. Now, I'm not quite understanding the charges here. The second degree murder. I mean, why is this not all just first degree murder? It's premeditated. He obviously been planning it, right? Maybe I'm just not understanding the charges, and maybe they're changed later. I don't know. He had also jotted down dozens of online people search engines, platforms known for aggregating personal data. These platforms are used for doxing or targeting harassment. Prosecutors say that these entries, along with the specificity of his notes, show that the rampage was anything but random. You think? I think they were very planned, detailed. One federal official said it was methodical, calculated. He selected targets with precision. After the shootings, Bolter vanished. He made his way to a local bank, reportedly disguised in a cowboy hat, emptied a personal account. Some of the money was used to buy a beat-up Buick and an electric bike with private sellers. Both would later play key roles in his attempted getaway. How did you buy a Buick and an electric bike in that short period of time without people knowing that something was up? Of course, I guess he was being chased for almost 2 days. Sunday morning, the Buick was found abandoned. Inside was a typed letter signed Dr. Vance Luther Bolter, in which the writer identified himself as the shooter at large in Minnesota. It's almost like he wanted to be called, isn't it? He described the shootings, declared them politically motivated. Authorities believe the letter was intended for the FBI, like a confession, I guess. The doctor title, turns out, may refer to a degree Bolter claimed to have earned in leadership for the advancement of learning and service from Cardinal Stritch University, an institution that permanently closed in 2023. Bolter was ultimately located, of course, arrested about a mile away from his family home. He made his first court appearance yesterday and was ordered held without bail. He faces a long list of charges that include capital offenses at both state and federal levels. The Department of Justice reportedly evaluating whether to pursue the death penalty, a rare but not unprecedented step in domestic terrorism cases. I would say the death sentence should be on the table. What about you? Email me, text me, joeyhudson.com. Bolter's motives are still under investigation. Law enforcement sources say that the suspect has a long-standing history of political radicalization. One investigator described him as a self-radicalized lone wolf with a fixation on political grievance. The killings, of course, have rocked Minnesota politics. And look, politics around the country. A lot of local elected leaders, a lot of representatives, state senators around the country are thinking about security. And the thing is, most of the time, states don't have the funds or don't dedicate the funds for security for these men and women, although they're out on the front lines all the time. Representative Hortman had served as Speaker of the House since 2019, was widely regarded as a respected and moderate voice in state politics. Senator Hoffman, who is recovering alongside his wife, is also a long-serving legislator with deep community ties. Memorials outside the state capitol and Hortman's district office have grown steadily in the days. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has ordered flags flown at half-staff for a week and vowed to bring every resource of this state to bear in pursuit of justice. Walz, in a televised address, said this was just not an attack on elected officials. It was an attack on democracy, on public service, and on the safety of every Minnesotan. Lawmakers from both parties, Democrat and Republican, independents, have all echoed the message of unity, calling for increased security, better threat assessments, and renewed efforts to track politically motivated violence. In the town of Andover, where the Hortmans lived, neighbors say that the killings feel surreal. Not supposed to happen in their neighborhood. Not supposed to happen in any neighborhood. Bolter is in federal custody. He'll face another hearing later this month. Investigators are continuing to examine digital evidence, including his online activity, past communications, and any potential ties to extremist groups or forums, like the Republican Party probably. All indications are this guy was a Democrat and had ties to Governor Tim Walz. We'll see. The story will unfold, and we'll keep you up to date. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. This next story is one of those moments where you just kind of step back and you have to think, are they really serious? Are these people, these adults, these so-called leaders, are they really serious about this? Here's the story. Over 200 Democrats, 200 elected Democrats in Congress have signed their names to a letter complaining that Senator Alex Padilla of California was mistreated and physically assaulted at a Homeland Security press conference last week. That's right. Now, they don't think to bring up the fact that he stormed in unannounced, unidentified, when the Secretary of Homeland Security was having a news conference. The security had no idea who he was at the moment. They quickly did what they were supposed to do, protect the secretary. When they got him outside, yes, they cuffed him. They detained him. But when they learned who he was, they released him. Now, apparently, getting handcuffed after storming a press conference and interrupting a cabinet official mid-sentence without identifying yourself is now grounds for a constitutional crisis. And according to Congressional Hispanic Caucus and folks like AOC, John Fetterman, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, it's now an unprecedented violation of separation of powers. Now, I would say that there is a violation of separation of powers here when a U.S. senator storms into a press conference of a sitting cabinet member and tries to force her to answer his questions. Let's talk about what actually happened. This story last week made headlines. The video has been seen millions of times. There was a press conference. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was at the podium discussing the chaos unfolding in Los Angeles. Real chaos. ICE agents being attacked, rioters waving foreign flags and taking over parts of Los Angeles, Border Patrol trucks getting rocks thrown through their windows. Now, this is serious stuff. And in the middle of it, here comes Senator Alex Padilla, one of the two U.S. senators from California, trying to walk straight up to the podium while Ms. Nome is still speaking. Cameras are rolling. Reporters are present. Padilla starts yelling. Law enforcement intervenes as they should have. He doesn't back off. He gets stopped, restrained, handcuffed, removed from the room. Happened that quick. That's what happened. It's all on video. You can watch it for yourself. But now we're supposed to pretend that this was an assault on democracy. The assault on democracy. I mean, give me a break. You had a lunatic U.S. senator storming a member of the U.S. cabinet, the president's cabinet, Homeland Security at that, in a city that had rioters and violence at every corner. So a guy storms a press conference, and security's supposed to just stand back and let him do it? I mean, folks, here's the thing. There are rules. Even in the United States Senate, you don't get to physically disrupt federal press briefings, shout over cabinet secretaries, and think you're somehow above the law because of the pin on your lapel, which, by the way, reports say that he didn't have the pin on his lapel when he stormed the news conference. I mean, this was a stunt. It was a planned moment to generate headlines, and he was successful at that. The senator knew exactly what he was doing, and the Democrats are using it now to deflect from something they really don't want to talk about: the complete breakdown of law and order in cities like Los Angeles. Anything to defer the attention that is coming on cities like Los Angeles and New York to a degree. Because while they're busy demanding apologies and launching investigations over a senator being escorted out of a room, ICE agents are getting assaulted with rocks. ICE agents' lives are truly in danger. Senator Padilla's life was never in danger. I mean, during the L.A. riots last weekend, riots that were directly instigated by rhetoric from sanctuary city politicians like Mayor Bass there, federal law enforcement officers were targeted and injured. Rioters burned vehicles. They blocked buses carrying deportees. They spray painted "Kill ICE" across government buildings. And yet, here comes the letter. Here comes the crocodile tears. We demand accountability for the mistreatment of Senator Padilla. Mistreatment? Padilla was detained for about 5 minutes after refusing to follow a protocol and acting like a protester, not a policymaker. But let's remember, this is the same Democrat Party that cheered when President Trump's senior officials were shouted out of restaurants. The same party that said nothing when Republican lawmakers were swarmed and chased down the street. That was okay. That was just people exercising their freedom of speech and getting the attention of elected officials. This isn't about defending congressional oversight. It's about one thing: distraction, political distraction. Distraction from Joe Biden's border collapse and what it has led to. Distraction from violent riots in California. Distraction from the fact that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass let their city burn while blaming Trump for enforcing the law. And now they're elevating Padilla to martyr status because he got a little too enthusiastic trying to shout down the Secretary of Homeland Security. Well, he lost that. And he'll lose again if he tries it again. And by the way, let's talk about the letter. It's signed by AOC, that brain trust, signed by Chucky Schumer, signed by John Fetterman, which kind of surprises me that Senator Fetterman signed this nonsense. With some of the things he's done recently, like praising the parade over the weekend, I thought maybe he was exercising a little common sense. Now, to his credit, at least he's consistent in not understanding on what's going on. The letter says Padilla clearly identified himself. But according to DHS and reporters on the scene, he didn't. Not initially. He didn't have, the report said he did not have that lapel pin that identifies a member of the U.S. Senate. And he didn't have it on, I'm sure, by design. White House Press Secretary Abigail Jackson confirmed it, saying Padilla lunged towards Secretary Noem's podium, resisted law enforcement, and didn't immediately identify himself. So which is it? Was he a senator on official business or a protester trying to hijack a press event? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot more like the second option. Let's take option B. He's a protester trying to hijack a press event and trying to get the news coverage that he has gotten since then. Now, imagine if a Republican senator, let's say Josh Hawley, rushed a Democrat cabinet secretary during Joe Biden's disastrous administration, started yelling, ignored law enforcement, and refused to comply when was told to stop. Do you think Chuck Schumer would be writing a letter demanding respect for legislative oversight? Do you think Chuck Schumer would be listening to Republican senators complaining because Senator Hawley had not been treated fairly? They would be trying to throw the book at Josh Hawley or any Republican senator, for that matter, who had done the same thing. If it had been a Republican, they'd be demanding an ethics investigation. They'd be on MSNBC calling it insurrection adjacent. Rachel Maddow would be giving a 17-minute monologue about fascism. The media would lose its mind. But when it's a Democrat, well, it's a civil rights violation. It's bravery. It's peaceful confrontation. And, of course, anyone who criticizes it is attacking democracy. Folks, this is the game now. Disrupt, provoke, get detained, cry foul, get your allies to call it tyranny, and hope nobody notices the real story that your side is losing the public debate on immigration, crime, and border security, that people don't want sanctuary cities. They want their cities to be safe. They want these murderers, these robbers, these people who have assaulted and participated in drug distribution, they want them out of their cities, and they want them sent back to their home countries. So our cities will be safe. And that's what this is really about. Democrats are terrified that the American people are waking up to the disaster of their sanctuary state policies, to the fact that ICE is being vilified, that federal law enforcement officers are being treated like the enemy, and that cities like Los Angeles are descending into lawlessness on their watch. So what do? They try to make up the story about Padilla's handcuffs, not the border invasion, not the riots, not the failure of leadership within their own ranks. Well, sorry. I don't think most Americans are buying it. So where does this go next? The Democrats want an investigation. They want hearings. They want apologies. But we're not going to forget, and we're not going to let them forget that we elected Donald Trump last November because he promised us that there would be the biggest deportation in our country's history, and we want him to deliver. On the text line, Faye writes, Joey, my opinion is that these folks protesting in California have no love for this country and likely never fought for any of our freedoms. They're playing right in the hands of evil. Reagan was right. It only takes one misguided generation to destroy 250 years of goodness and freedom. God save the USA. With most of the hundreds of protests over the weekend remaining peaceful, there is an interesting tolerance for violence growing among a younger group of Americans. Protesters gathered outside of Saturday's military parade in Washington, D.C., declined to outright condemn the recent wave of anti-Trump violence that has unfolded across the U.S. in many major cities, including the most intense clashes that we have all watched in Los Angeles. While the protest near the nation's capital Saturday was largely peaceful, the mood among many demonstrators reflects what appears to be a growing tolerance, and in some cases, just outright support for the violent tactics used elsewhere. And I'm also seeing this even in, like, my home area in upstate South Carolina. I've seen images and Facebook posts and Instagram posts of people that I know, of adults who know better, who attended some of these protests and just some of the signs that they were holding, that they are just directly defying what President Trump is doing, what a majority of Americans elected him to do. One college-age protester who refused to give his name but was interviewed by Fox News in Washington on Saturday said, "I'm following my constitutional rights." Another young man said people are fed up with the government. Another young man said that people are angry. Here's what some of the young people had to say to a Fox News reporter in Washington.
To me, as long as the First Amendment exists, then and we're still followed, I don't feel like I'm in any trouble. I'm following my constitutional rights. I'm out here just simply saying what I want to feel. No one here is being violent. As you see, there's been no conflict.
But you're not worried about being conflated with those who are doing violence?
I mean, if they want to violate the Constitution, that's on them. I can't worry about that. I mean, maybe I should, but I believe in this Constitution. I'm going to live by it. I'm going to support my First Amendment.
And also, they have, honestly, they have a right to be angry. They have a right to do what they feel like they need to do to stop this issue, to stop fascism. And I honestly, I fully support that. I fully support if they're angry and they want to go out and they want to throw rocks, as long as they don't hurt anyone. But, I can understand it. I can honestly do it.
What about, lighting cop cars on fire?
I mean, I personally won't do that. But I can understand, after all this, people are fed up. People are fed up of how the government has been treating people. Cutting Medicare, that's going to kill thousands of people. That truly is. That's unacceptable. And, people, they don't care. The Republicans, the people in Congress, they do not care about people here. And so, that, I can understand why people are that angry to do something like that. So, yeah, I fully understand.
I mean, I think it's wrong to, create violence, but like he said, I mean, I think people have been angry for a long time. And what he's doing, what Trump is doing, I mean, he knows the polarization and the anger he's causing. So this is all part of his game plan. The National Guard in LA, he caused that, said go out there without Newsom saying anything. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He wants to cause a rise out of people.
I think being very abrasive is against our interests, actually. I think it drives away a lot of people. It doesn't really foster the conversations that we need. I don't think being aggressive is the way to go, but I think history has proven that sometimes aggression is needed. So, but I don't want to be abrasive.
Now, these were 4 young folks, 3 young men and the last young lady. The young men, it was kind of interesting because there was another guy with the group who never said anything, but he wanted to be in the shot because he had a homemade sign that said something about "Shame on you, Trump." The problem was he was holding it up to be in the camera shot, but he didn't realize it was upside down. So it's kind of hard to read what he was saying. But obviously he didn't like the idea that there was a parade of the Army in D.C. But it's kind of interesting to hear them talk about, the Constitution guarantees my freedom of speech. Now, the implication from some of the protesters was clear. Trump, not the protesters, bears the responsibility for the escalation in violence. It's Donald Trump's fault. They claim that the president's immigration enforcement actions, including nationwide ICE raids, have stirred unrest and created conditions ripe for upheaval. They haven't stopped to think about the idea that the illegals, these immigrants who are here, who shouldn't be here, are the whole reason that ICE is having to round them up. Now, if you were to ask one of them what they think about Lake and Raleigh, for example, they'd probably condemn that illegal. And what they don't understand is there are more people like that, murderers and robbers and people who are selling drugs, who are selling people, who are trafficking human beings as part of these bad people that ICE is trying to round up. That's it. It's just that simple. Some tried to strike a more measured tone. A protester who gave her name as being Sophie said she didn't condone violence, but acknowledged that sometimes you had to get violent to make change. Kind of like the last young lady on that video was saying, but saying she didn't want to be part of violence. And the historical justification has been echoed by other left-wing activists in the past, referencing movements like the civil rights struggle or the anti-Vietnam protests. The problem with that argument is the civil rights struggle, for example, they were fighting for the rights of Americans. We're talking about illegals, people who are in our country illegally, and they're out marching and burning cars and disrupting cities to protect the so-called rights of people who have entered our country illegally, of criminals. Now, critics argue that drawing such comparisons to current rights undermines the peaceful ethos of those earlier movements, and they're right. You shouldn't be trying to compare those two. The fallout from the recent protests have been wide-ranging. In addition to the chaos in Los Angeles, we've seen demonstrations spread in New York, Chicago, Seattle, and Utah. An innocent bystander was shot and killed after an armed member of a protest so-called peacekeeping unit opened fire. In L.A., the body of a man was discovered outside a looted T-Mobile store during the height of the anti-ICE violence. Law enforcement continues to investigate these incidents, but you're putting law enforcement lives at risk as well. There's nothing you can do or say that justifies violence in any protest. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On our guest line, Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party. Welcome. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am wonderful. Hope you are. Hope you had a great weekend. Lots to cover. Last week, South Carolina Representative R.J. May was arrested and charged with distributing child pornography. When you read the indictment, the evidence presented is pretty bad. I mean, he's accused of distributing more than 200 files of child porn from various devices. You have called for Representative May to resign. It's my understanding he cannot be removed from office yet. Is that correct?
As I understand it, I mean, essentially two things I believe could remove him. One would be a conviction, which you never know how long that would take. Two would be the House going through ethics committee complaint process, as I understand it, and then I think by either a 2/3 or 3/4 vote. Any of which would take some time. Usually what happens in cases like this is you'll see the defendant use any elected office that they may hold as essentially a bargaining chip with prosecutors. I'll resign as part of this package if you reduce the sentence to X, Y, Z. I don't know if that's what's going to happen here, but it's been so long since these charges were initially the investigation was made public close to a year from now. I think a year ago, maybe 9 months, give or take. And now, you see them finally moving in, having an indictment for an arrest, and of course have not released him on his own recognizance and no bond. Look, they don't do the federal government, particularly this is Homeland Security is involved in this at this point. As I understand it, you don't see them do this kind of stuff unless they've got the goods. I expect him to do some sort of a plea deal sometime soon. But my point, when I put the statement out was, the quicker the better here for the voters of his district. I mean, they deserve to have representation. And the problem is, if there was a resignation today, you've got a clock that takes a little while to tick here for us to have, filing and then be able to have a primary and then be able to have a special election. and that affects the people of that district.
Sure, because obviously they go back into session in January, and if a special election is not held, I don't think he's going to be there in January.
Correct.
Yeah,
you will not be representing them from jail. You are correct.
Yes. So, does this hurt? He was one of the founding members of the Freedom Caucus. Does this hurt the Freedom Caucus?
Well, it's not good for anybody. I mean, any organization. Not good for Freedom Caucus, not good for Republicans, not good for the House of Representatives, not good for, elected officials. I mean, just in terms of, representation, how elected officials are held up to the public and so forth. And of course, we know, elected officials have the same, problems that other people do and are subject to the same, potential, crimes.
Sure.
Anybody can commit. It doesn't matter who they are or what job that they have. But, and certainly it doesn't help the reputation at all.
Yeah. Busy weekend with a lot of protests around the country. We had some here in the upstate. You guys had some in the Midlands. There were some in the Low Country, but I think it was well represented around the state. Overall, from what I'm understanding, most were peaceful. It was kind of interesting to watch the video because, you saw a lot of young people. They're out of school. They're bored. They got to have something to do. But you also saw some older people in the mix too. And it's interesting to me, some of their comments, well, our freedom's being threatened. We got to fight for our liberty. I mean, I'm thinking, you got the guy in the Oval Office right now who's never fought harder for our freedoms and for our liberty and for government just to get out of our lives. And you want to throw him out with the bathwater.
Well, that really makes you wonder what people mean or what some of these folks mean when they say freedom and liberties and, what's important to them. And that really does come down to differences between a lot of folks in this country, and particularly the political parties. What do we value? When you talk about, say, for instance, the right to life, this other party and these folks don't tend to value life very much. And, of course, we as Republicans do. We know that's one of our the most foundational freedom. You can't enjoy any other freedom if you don't have life.
Yeah.
But it extends from there, and just disagreements over what they hold to be important. They would rather the government be able to dictate what your liberties are. And so when their opponents are in charge of government, they fear for their lives because they believe that their liberties come from government. Yeah. That's part of the difference between conservatives and liberals or progressives or whatever they want to call themselves today. But I agree. It's protest season. The kids are out of college. Don't have anything better to do. And you got the George Soros groups out there that pay a lot of them to show up and protest and organize these things. And, it's sort of baked in the cake. Fine. They can go protest for a couple of days. But, it's part of the playbook. It's what we see. They protest, particularly out west, we see in L.A. protesting in favor of, essentially, illegal immigration. And then that highlights the issue. They lose elections. They get mad. So then they protest again. So it's rinse and repeat. And, again, obviously we're not seeing them make very much traction with that argument with the American public. And, as I like to say, the first rule of holes is when you're in one, stop digging. Well, they just keep digging. I mean, this is what's important to them. And thankfully, it's not what's important to the voters.
Yeah. It's just crazy what the National Democrat Party and of course, it filters down to the local level as well. But it's like their hatred of Donald Trump just clouds their judgment. An example, they turn on their own. Pennsylvania Democrat Senator Fetterman, he was praising the Army parade over the weekend, and they've gone after him simply because it was a parade that Donald Trump supports.
Correct. It is true what they refer to as Trump derangement syndrome. So it's a real thing. Apparently, some of them need to be, seen by someone maybe who is a psychiatrist or has some counseling skills. But again, like I said, it goes back to what these people prioritize. And they don't prioritize the things that normal Americans do. And that's why they lost the last election.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe President Trump could come up with a vaccine for Trump derangement syndrome.
that would be one vaccine that they would not want to take. I guarantee you.
We'd have to slip
they
it
would
in.
protest that vaccine.
Yeah. Maybe we could slip it into drinking water or something. They wouldn't know it.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, just an idea. Just an idea. Drew McKissick, it's always a pleasure. Have a good one. We'll check in with you next week.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a great one. Thank you.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.